Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to Daily Drop-In, bright and early on Thursday, October 7th. We are getting started here like we do every single morning at 7 a.m. Eastern. We are kicking it off streaming right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And then, of course, you might be listening to this after the fact on Teach Better Talk podcast. We have a ton in store for a Thursday, which I know I always say, but I mean it today. We're going to continue the theme that we've been talking about all week long. We have Chris Anderson with us, which you know is going to be good. The shenanigans, the dialogue. I just cannot wait. And we also have a good news story and some incredible holidays that are today. Indian holidays, Hindu holidays, World Frappe Day is today. Let's just put it this way. It's going to be a good one. So we'll be right back, and let's get ready for our morning cheers. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Daily Drop-In. Chris, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Rae. It's great to be here.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've been waiting for this time that we got to go live. I was looking even this morning through our DMs on Twitter, and I was like, Chris, come on the show. What's it going to take? And we finally got to the day that you signed up.
Yes, yeah, begging. You dragged me kicking and screaming. It took forever to get our people together, but finally you got me. It's really impressive. I love your tenacity.
I just appreciate that your people called my people and we made this work. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, all of my people.
Oh, so fun. For everyone, early morning this morning. Thank you for being here. Cheers to your morning coffee. We hope that your morning is kicking off right. We have some positivity, some good news stories, some good dialogue that we'll be able to have with you today. So we are thrilled that you are starting your morning with some fun with the Teach Better team. Chris, for people who may not be connected to you, would you mind kind of sharing a little about yourself, the background that you have, and then also the work, obviously, that you do in education every day?
Sure. So I started my my journey as a science teacher at the high school level, and I did that for a number of years. I taught mostly freshmen, and had a lot of fun with it. All my freshman teachers out there, still love you guys. You guys are doing the Lord's work. It is. It's hard work, but it's great work. I did love the freshmen. And then now, as during my day job, I'm an instructional coach. I work with Cincinnati Public Schools, and I've been at Bond Hill Elementary for a couple of years now. And the teachers are great. I love working with them. And then kind of the side projects, mostly starting to move into the front projects, as I do science communication. I create videos for kids. So I have two series. One's called Science Around Cincy, and we talk to scientists and researchers and engineers who live in our area, and we use it as a teaching tool to teach kids science and expose them to different STEM careers. And it's been really great. You can find us on YouTube and Instagram, and a couple of our PBS affiliates have started to broadcast, which is really exciting. And then we also have another series that we're promoting right now and really pushing. It's called Outsider Classroom, and I'll put it in the comments if you guys want to do it. But if you look up Outsider Classroom, it's our new series. We go to different national parks and we teach kids science through the national parks. And we just started releasing videos just last month, and we'll have one to release each week from now until probably February with this first go. And we're trying to see if we can get back out there next year, which is great.
Oh my gosh, I bet people are soaking that up. Holy cow. I did teach science 1 year and I struggled. That was always like a really challenging subject to teach. But then you connect with somebody who's like, that's their jam. And you just, I mean, even just in your sharing, I'm like, oh my God, I want to teach science again. I would love to use these resources. Chris is so passionate. He would help me make it successful.
Yeah, it's one of those subjects where like the teacher, like it really matters. Like if you really get into it with the kids, that's the best subject. The kids love it, and it doesn't matter if the kids grow up to be scientists or painters or accountants or whatever. They'll love that time that you have with them. But you're right. There are some times where teachers, especially at the elementary level, they're like, "Oh, you're teaching science," and like, like I don't know science. Like I don't know the materials. I don't even know where the materials are in my building. So that is definitely a challenge.
But I do love that science is so woven into all of the subject areas. I find that to be so wonderful. However, I don't know that I'm going to let you like slide in that it's the best subject ever. Like we could get into this debate. I'm a math teacher at heart. I think we could probably have a vote in the comments of the best subject. I feel like that's a heated discussion at 6 a.m. Central. I'm just saying.
I'll say this is that really math and science, it's not just that they go together, but math is the language of science. And I even told a teacher yesterday, she's like, I don't know where I can fit science in my schedule. And it's like, you're talking about graphs already in class. Just when you do your experiment or whatever lab that you do, just do the graphing part in math and the kid, and because that's such a critical component of science, is that graphic analysis piece. Can you show your data, what you've learned visually? And it's huge. And so I don't think we have to fight about it. I think math is just the language of science. They don't have to compete for time. They should collaborate.
Yeah, it's funny, Chris. I don't think I knew the disconnect that only sometimes exists. Obviously, I mean, Bree just threw in the comments how much she loves teaching science and social studies at an elementary level, but it's a disconnect that I was unaware of, that in some elementary classrooms, science and social studies are not a focus, and there seems to be a big emphasis on reading and math. And I just find that so backwards. I understand because they're tested that like educators might be forced to go that way. Really, I'm trying to put as much ownership on somebody else other than the educator in this dialogue. Right. But I think it's so interesting because science is really the application of so many different things that, I like that concept of weaving a lesson in science into like integrating it into all the other subject areas. That's kind of the point, right? Isn't that kind of how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a kind of a difference between elementary teachers and there are differences between elementary teachers and high school teachers, where elementary teachers, I think they went into the classroom because they loved the kids. Like the kids were their first like love, so to speak. Where high school, especially science teachers, their first love was science. And so they're already passionate about science. They're so jazzed about science. They want to grab you on the street and talk to you about how inside the core of the sun, there's hydrogen atoms that are getting smashed together at the speed of light. And that's what's causing all the warmth and heat and light that we see. And they just want to like grab you by the shoulders and like scream it in your face. And elementary teachers might not be quite that passionate about science. That's okay. That's totally okay.
You know what, Chris, if we're going to let's stereotype even further. Then let's talk about middle school teachers. My middle school people, y'all are crazy and you just like stinky sarcasm. That's all that means. Like you didn't go like, for any other reason.
Oh yeah, that's I love my middle school teachers. It's like because you have to have like a special force inside of you that can just tolerate.
See, I like that you said a special force inside of you. I was going to say you really have to have a gear loose. That's really what it is.
Yeah, I always empathize. I empathize with the teachers, and I also empathize with kids because I remember what it was like to be in like 6th and 7th grade, and it's like a miserable time for everybody. Like no one's imagine whatever bad day you've had. Like that's just what it's like to be a middle schooler every single day.
People talk to ask me all the time. They're like, "Oh, did you love middle school? Is that what you taught it?" And I was like, worst years of my life, probably middle school.
Yeah. Yep.
Why did you choose to be a high school teacher? Where did that come from?
That's a great question. I think when I first started out, I liked the idea of some of the more complex topics, and I liked the idea of working with kids on some of those more uh, challenging science phenomena, we'll say. Uh, as I got older and I found out that I was much better at teaching chemistry and physics than I was at teaching life sciences. So I learned that about myself. And I learned I was better at teaching freshmen than I was at teaching anyone like the older grades. And now that I've been working in an elementary school, I kind of think like, man, I probably would have really liked third grade. I probably would have really enjoyed, like we would have done, a native garden. We would have had made up a weather station. So I think I hope as teachers now start to get a more diverse array of experiences with the kids. If you're in elementary school, if you've been with second grade for 4 or 5 years, like, if you can, or if you can even pop into a middle school classroom or a high school classroom, you might learn something. And I know high school teachers would do that because we're not always as strong in pedagogy as the elementary teachers. Elementary teachers are so creative with how they break down a concept. I think sometimes even high school teachers could learn from that. Like, oh, maybe I can just observe a first or second grade classroom and just watch and see what they do.
Well, and I appreciate the beauty that you kind of took us through in this journey of this silly little conversation, because at first it was this, joking about the stereotypes that exist when you choose to become an elementary, a middle school, or a high school teacher, but kind of coming back to it and saying, okay, but honestly, it's kind of cool because now we have a lot to learn from each other. And isn't that such a blessing? And the opportunity that we have to collaborate is such an opportunity here that we should choose not to miss, right? That's very, very cool.
Yeah, and if the folks who are listening, if you are in a district that will let you, like, see if you can get some folks in the same room, and just start to talk to one another. I think that's always really helpful, is to talk to people who are doing a good job at a different grade or even a different subject.
Absolutely. No, I think that collaboration is so cool. I love that stuff. Yesterday, I was at a district training for a school in Freeport, Illinois, and it was really interesting because the entire professional development day, that it was a district-wide professional development day, it was full of elementary, middle school, and high school teachers all collaborating all day long, all in the same session, but having like different dialogue within the same sessions. It was really interesting. And so those opportunities to build a more diverse PLN, and diverse in this sense being educators that teach different things at different grade levels, is really neat. So I love that stuff.
Yeah. There's a lot we can learn from even people who are in our own building or our own district.
Well, Chris, I want to dive into that a little bit deeper, because your work as an instructional coach and your work in bettering the science profession of educators is definitely going to be a relevant topic as we transition here into our brainstorm bake. So we'll be right back. Hey everyone, good morning. It is daily drop-in time, and we are here on Thursday, October 7th, which means our first segment every single Tuesday and Thursday is the Brainstorm Bank. Chris, it was really good to hear about your background and get a little bit into your passions, but this is the intentional time every single morning where we kind of pause and we ask anybody, hey, do you need anything? Because we really believe that brainstorming and problem solving together is the way that we become the best we can every single day. And Chris, with your work in supporting educators, being a passionate educator and everything in between, I think there's going to be a lot of good questions that we can pose to really dive into some of the meat and potatoes of our conversation. This week specifically has focused a lot on finding balance and giving yourself grace in being able to take time for yourself. It's interesting, we've been talking a lot about teacher guilt this week, and putting up parameters so that you can take time away from work. And while I love this subject, I think it's really relevant right now. But it seems to be a really hard subject for some educators to swallow. So in your role, you truly have two different full-time jobs. I see you all the time. You are always working. How do you see your, for lack of a better term, work-life balance, right? Tell me about that.
Well, I'll be honest, it helps that we don't have kids yet. I'm sure some of y'all got kids. Not make it that is a lot harder.
And you mean in your
Um,
personal life? In your personal life?
yes. We have not procreated. So I think what I try to do is each week have my critical qualities, right? Like these are the things I absolutely need to get done, and then have a bunch of other things that are bonus. And part of whatever I get accomplished during the week, I try to make sure I do a couple of the same things every day. Go for a walk at some point in the middle of the day because I'm kind of in a room by myself if I'm not in data meetings, and so I have to get up and move, or like at least get out to the classrooms for a little bit. Um, I think getting a good night's sleep is probably the most important thing and maybe the least appreciated thing among teachers. You will not do better work if you plow through and work till 1 in the morning. You might do more work, maybe, but it might not be better. So I would very much encourage teachers to protect their sleep. Absolutely protect their sleep. Like have your time where you put your phone and turn the TV off and have a little bit before you lie down. Like have good sleep hygiene, get good sleep. Read Why We Sleep. Like get good sleep. You'll feel like you have like you're a super brain genius the next day because your brain will actually be rested and you'll be just like you'll be a better teacher for it.
Oh, sleep is so important. I do have to say, I truly believe, and I am unwilling to put this to the test, but I believe it regardless. I can sleep anywhere. Like if you were like, "Hey Ray, the world is ending unless right this moment within the next 30 seconds you fall asleep in your chair," I'd be like, "Done, I got you, Chris, no problem."
Fascinating scenario, but helpful piece of trivia.
Helpful piece of trivia. But I think your focus on taking intentional time to rest is something that is very easy for educators to take off their list when their to-do
Yep.
list gets so long. Because in theory,
Right.
and you phrased it beautifully in your description, if I stay up later, I'm going to get more done. And in your description, you were like, well, maybe, but you might also be ineffective and inefficient. So are you really getting more done?
Right. And are you going to be like on your game the next day? I'm sure you guys have talked about this all week and exercising, just eat like doing something that brings you joy when you get home from the day. Like I watch like when I get home from school, I watch like an episode of Parks and Rec and have a snack. Like before I do any other thing, I need like 30 minutes of TV time. And we're not like a huge TV watchers, but at least then I have some time to just turn my brain off for a little bit before I gotta, I gotta write this grant or I gotta, I have an hour editing meeting or whatever it is I gotta do. It gives me 30 minutes just to shut down for a little bit.
So if you don't mind, I want to dig into that a little bit because I think that there's so many different intentional moves you make by saying, hey, when I get home, I make this choice. And whether you are listening right now and you're saying, well, I can't make that choice when I get home, but I can make that choice at 8:00 at night. I can make that choice at 6 a.m. in the morning. That's why I want to kind of focus on that intentionality really quick. So you come home, you've had a long day, your brain's been moving, you've been doing 100 different things, and you take a half an hour or however long a Parks and Rec episode is for yourself. And you said you eat a snack. So tell me about some of those intentional choices. Why should you eat a snack? Why are you resting your brain for that period of time? And why an episode and maybe not a 6-hour movie? Like, give me all those things.
Well, I think a lot of us, especially when last year when we were in the house, it seemed like a lot of people were kind of reverting back to watching reruns of things like The Office or and in my view that's comfort food, right? There's no question how it's going to end. You've seen that episode probably 5 or 6 times. You know what's going to happen. You know what the jokes are. You could still laugh, but there's no new thinking there. So you can watch it or you can check Instagram for a minute or two. It's just a way, I think, like, okay, I know how this is going to go. I know what's funny. If I need to pause it so I can look at something, that's fine. I'm not waiting with bated breath to see what happens to Leslie Knope. Uh, and I think, I don't know, I'm just hungry when I get home because I'm most of the time hungry. But I do also, well, we do have like some, that sparkle water, the carbonated soda. So it's like a little treat, and it's healthier than a beer, at least at that point. And if I drink a beer later, that's that's something else. But it has that that carbonation. It's kind of like a replacement habit, and that's always nice.
Well, I do have to say, I do something very similar to you, Chris, where when I need a brain break, I actually go to comedy. And I find that to
Yeah,
be, I like that you said it was like comfort television. That's true. But there's a lot of comfort television, guys. I watch bad movies all the time. I'm a
yeah.
professional at watching rom-coms and terrible, terrible TV that I don't recommend to people because they'll just laugh at me. But comedy is truly something that like I will put on when I need a brain break because it so quickly moves me out of work mode, which I think is
Right.
actually a big focus of you wanting to have a half an hour to yourself. But on the flip side, it also has like a finite ending. So you're kind of like resetting your body, you're laughing, which is so healthy for you. And
Yeah.
then when it ends, when that next episode starts or when there's a natural pause, it's easier to make that choice to go back to being
Yep.
productive or get back to that to-do list because you've like given your body laughter and relaxation for a set period of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And if you do, and if it's something you've seen a million times, if you pause it in the middle of it, like it's not that serious. You're not like, okay, I got to go do something, or like I got to move on to my next appointment, or I got to take this call, and yeah, it's all good. I think it's just you gotta find places and spaces for you to give yourself joy
Mm.
during the day, especially when you're working hard and you're in school, and school can be frustrating, and kids can be frustrating, and administrators can be frustrating, and you know you need to have that space for yourself.
Yeah. You said earlier, obviously, your insane passion for science and you're constantly supporting educators in having relevant resources to bring to their classroom. Is there any element of science that you directly connect to like your personal life and putting in those boundaries in terms of, you even said like sleep hygiene, like all those things are really, really good for the body.
uh that's a good question. I don't know if there's any specific science. I think I just kind of know myself, and I think there's just everybody's got a point of diminishing returns, right, where you can you can work 8 straight hours, and you could work then another two. You could have a really full productive day, and then you could work another two. But are you going to get 2 good hours of work out of that? Is it just going to be, are you just going to be spinning your wheels? Are you going to be taking away something from the next day? And sometimes you just have to know when to like cut yourself off. And I think that is hard for teachers because there's always something to do. There's always work to be done. There's projects to prep for. There's lessons to plan. There's assignments to grade. And then God forbid if you can take like a 30,000 foot look and like maybe think about how you can develop things better or something, a unit or two down the line. But sometimes you just have to know when your point is, or like I can do more work, but I shouldn't because it's not going to be great, uh, or it's going to take me 4 times longer to complete it. That's not good use of time. I would rather just take that time and just enjoy it, and then hit the bricks the next day.
Well, and I think what you're alluding to is really self-awareness, right? Being able to
Yeah.
have like a gut check and say, hey, if I choose to make this decision, how does
Hmm.
this affect me in the long term, in the short term? And
Right.
can I do something else that's going to make me more productive and more efficient if I worked on this later? I'm sure as an instructional coach in your role, you not only do a lot of this coaching with pedagogy and classroom management and everything in between, but you
Yep.
probably do a lot of kind of reflecting with educators on making good choices for themselves as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we all get to a point where we have to just take a step back, and just do it. Don't And you shouldn't feel bad about it. You're not selfish. You're not selfish for doing that. You do good work during the day, and it's okay to take a break.
So, Chris, I want to hear about the resources that you are constantly creating and publishing for educators. Because I know that we
Yeah.
talked briefly in DMs a few weeks ago about this new video that you have going on, and truly, you are constantly trying to get resources in teachers' hands to make science more relevant, but also easier. I mean, we're talking about educators making sure that they're using their time intentionally, pulling in relevant resources that you know are coming from a reliable source is
Yep.
one of the ways to do that, so that your workload looks different. The choices you make in your life and the time that you put, to creating a good lesson look different, because you know that the video is going to be there to support whatever instructional pathway you're headed down. So tell me a little bit about how teachers can use the resources that you are a big advocate for.
That's a great question. So I'll start with outside of classroom because that's kind of our big push right now. So all our main videos, we try to have very closely aligned with standards. And I think that's the key, because there's a million science videos out there. I can't compete with everybody with science videos. There's just too many. Uh, but they're not always aligned to what teachers need to teach the kids. It could be cool, but then it's like, okay, we show this video and it's cool. All right, now we got to go back to learning, and that's boring, right? Like, this was cool, and now we have to go back to the boring stuff.
Yeah.
But my whole idea was, if the videos are aligned to standards, you can make it seamless with what you do at the classroom. So the first video we put out, we went to Death Valley National Park, and we went to Sequoia National Park, and they're two very, very, very different parks. One is one of the driest places on the planet, and another is a forest full of the largest trees on the planet. And so but they're only, as the crow flies, they're only like 100 miles apart.
Well,
Right. Right. And we don't think about that. We're like, yeah, Death Valley, it's where they filmed the Tatooine scenes in Star Wars. That's really great. And then you think, oh, you go to Sequoia, and it seems like, well, that's where they would have filmed Endor and the Ewoks, but they're not that far apart. Well, what happens is it's a great example of the rain shadow effect. The winds come off the Pacific Ocean, they're full of moisture, and they hit those mountains, and they go up and they dump all their rain. And by the time they get over the other side of the mountains, it's all the air is all dry, so very little precipitation falls on the other side of the mountains. But rain shadow effect is a big concept to learn in like 4th and 7th grade, because you learn about weather, you learn about climate patterns, you learn about how the atmosphere circulates and biomes. So it's pretty seamless. So then what we did is we have our video, and it's only like, I think maybe 6-7 minutes long, so like perfect for the classroom. So you watch the video, and then there's an immediate discussion guide. And what we try to do is put in questions. There's a couple questions, like, did you pay attention questions, right? Where the kids just write down as they're watching, but there's only like 2 or 3 of those. But then they do questions that they have to have some sort of discussion with. Like, there's a couple that there's no right answer. I mean, there's some answers that are more right than others, but for the most part, it's just a chance for the kids to write and to think and to verbalize what's going on in their brains. And that's kind of that first piece. And then we go through the rest of the 5 E's. So there's labs with it. There's usually a graphic component. We try to incorporate geography and maps as much as we can. And then the last E, of course, is doing something either creative, designing something, or something where the kids are involved in the community. We haven't released all our lesson plans yet, but that should come out in the next couple weeks. So that's what we just try to do, is try to okay, here's this video, but it's the hook, it's the opening for an entire unit on how our planet's atmosphere works, and how moisture and heat and all that play a role in shaping what the planet looks like.
It's funny when you go into this, because I feel like the moment you said, oh, this is really relevant in 4th and 7th grade. I mean, I'm confident this is relevant in so many other grades as well, but your immediate reference to 4th and 7th, I think our entire network in the comments was like, what 4th grade or 7th grade teacher do I know that I can send this to? I love
Yeah,
it.
it's really just, you got to make it not just relevant for kids, but relevant for teachers, because otherwise you're just producing content without a need, and that's what teachers need. And it needs to be something that they can like look at immediately and plug and play. Like there can't be any barrier entry. There can't, and you can't look at these lesson plans. I feel like when I do research and trying to figure out what sort of activities we put together, I'll open these PDFs and it'll be like, oh, here's a lesson plan, and it's like 20 pages long. There's like 2 straight pages of background. Like, don't give me all that crap. Like, say like, this is what we're doing. Here are the student links. I'll figure the rest out.
I'm totally with you. And it's interesting because I know that you're so passionate about science, but from my background I've been a math teacher, I've been a writing teacher. As I'm thinking through, I'm like, okay, but Chris, just FYI, I could have used that video in math and in writing because 6 to 8 minutes as an attention getter to spark some dialogue, spark some interest, and then I can use that as a prompt that's going to kick off a full unit. I used to do these themed internships in my math class. There were so many different weather components or geography components to our study. Like, this is a really easy tool that's right there. And I bet you, and I have not seen the questions, but I can only assume that the questions that you provide are questions I could pull into other subject area like dialogue as well. I love that this resource is so accessible and created by educators. Hello. I mean, could you talk about a better crew to be able to put something together that is going to be applicable coming from an instructional coach background?
You cannot talk about anything better. Thank you.
So good. I love it. So where do I find this stuff? I mean, I know you referenced it. I know I could go on your Twitter, but like really where are the meat and potatoes of where I can find these resources?
So right now, all our videos are on YouTube. We've got about 4 released right now. The one we released this week is called Tall Things Considered. We talk about the sequoia trees and like why they get so tall, what how they've adapted to the Sierra Nevadas and that environment. And I'm putting in the chat right now how you spell it. So if you look at Outsider Classroom on YouTube, you'll find all our videos. Like I said, it's all free. We should have our website up here in the next couple weeks, and then that will have all our lesson plans. So all our main episodes, so probably 1 per park, we'll have a whole 5E lesson, and we'll have 4 of those between now and, like I said, probably February. We're still doing some editing, but we'll have probably 20 to 25 total videos and 4 full lesson plans. That would probably be about 2 weeks. So plenty of content for teachers.
Chris, I have a really, really dumb question / observation.
Yes.
You said these videos are on YouTube.
Yep.
That means they're free.
Yeah, everything's free. Yeah, free 99 from now until forever. Everything's free. We don't like we don't want to put a barrier to entry to anything that we do. There's, teachers are already paying for stuff out of pocket. There's materials, there's consumables. They spend their own money on teachers, pay teachers. We didn't want to be on that. We didn't want to put any barriers for folks. And all of the activities that we have, it's mostly stuff you probably have in your classroom already, or you can get from Target for like 15 or 20 bucks. Like you can get the whole, like you can get all your materials. We wanted it stuff that teachers had pretty readily available. So it's for the most part, you don't need complex equipment or anything like, you don't need vernier probes or 3D printer or anything like that.
That's very, very cool. I love free resources. I'm always a fan of collecting free stuff. So that's killer. So help me out with this. Obviously, you've shared a lot of resources. Our theme this week is about appropriately setting boundaries and trying to find the right ways to find some sort of I say balance so loosely, balance in your life where you are giving your best at work, but also giving your best to yourself, your own body, your family, everything in between. When you're thinking through all this, what's one concept, one takeaway that you want our Teach Better family tuning in now or even listening after the fact on Teach Better Talk podcast to really consider as they're looking at trying to find this healthy balance between being a phenomenal educator, which they all of course are, but also like not getting burnt out and being inefficient and effective in the work they're doing because they're burning themselves out.
Well, I think you said it earlier, just being self-aware. I think that's the most important thing, is just be be aware of where you're at, and don't do more than what you're capable of, and it's okay to take a break. You're not being selfish. Yeah, the only other thing is that protect your sleep.
I
Get
love
good
this.
night's sleep.
Protect your sleep. Chris, how many hours are you getting a night? Let's talk sleep real quick because I know we have a bunch of people popping in now. We're going to transition here into the Good News Network, our Good News section of our daily drop-in. But like, how much sleep? Like 12 hours is okay, right? That's good.
If that's what you need to get to have a full day and be at your most productive self, that's great. I certainly won't judge you. and for people who think they can get by on like 5 or 6, you can't. Like you can muscle through it, but the percentage of the population who can actually like fully function with their brain at full capacity at like 4, 5, 6 hours, it's small, and you're probably not that. I would say I try to get at least 8 to 8.5 hours of sleep at night.
It sounds like so much time, but it goes so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, and you think, okay, 8, all right, let's be like, okay, but then that's 10 to 6 or 9 to 5 for a lot of people who are in an earlier school. It can be hard. It absolutely can be tough, but I would also, like I said, just take 30 or 40 or an hour just to not look at your phone and not watch TV before you go to bed. It will make a difference. It'll make a huge difference.
Okay, I have 2 challenges for our network right now. So do me a favor. This is like you're calling all like the bat signals up. I need some support in the comments. I want you to count how many hours you slept last night and throw it in the comments. We want to know. And then as you're doing that, and you should be typing in the comments, whether it's on your phone or your computer, you're typing in how many hours of sleep you got last night. And as that's happening, I want to challenge you all to try and get 15 hours of sleep tonight.
Yeah. And so do you want to know the science behind why you need to put your screen away before you go to sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's because we're all mostly fish. Like we're just repurposed fish. Our ancestors 300-ish 50 million years ago or so, they were fish or mostly lived in water, or were fish starting to move on land. And so you're every single one of us, we have a fishy body plan. We're not really adapted to the land because we didn't start that way, but we still have some things inside of us that are still fishy. So when we're first developing, we still have gills, right? Like that's a fishy thing. But the blue light from your screens is actually a cue to your brain to stay awake, because if you think about it, if you were a fish and you saw blue light, that meant it was daytime in your world. And so you still have part of your brain for which that soft glow of blue on your phone or the television tells your brain to keep being on. So when you put that away for an hour, your brain is a little more into shutting down and being ready to go to sleep.
So Chris, I think the biggest takeaway of today's daily drop-in is that everyone's a little fishy. That's kind of what
absolutely. Yeah, embrace your inner fish. That's something that we should all do.
Hashtag embrace your inner fish. This is the most ridiculous conversation, but it makes so much sense. I'm so glad that we're able to dive into that. We are going to play a little tune here to transition to some good news that we have for you. And as we do that, try and not be so fishy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our daily drop-in. We are going to conclude our time together. We've been able to have so much dialogue around so many different things, really focused on the fact that we need more sleep, that we have so much opportunity to incorporate science in our life, and that you should also sleep more because you're a little fishy. There's so many different things. Chris, you have shared free resources with us today. You shared so many different pieces of insight. I've loved learning about your background. As we kind of conclude our time together, our time together for this segment, It's always good to end with some holidays, some celebration, and also with a good news story that hopefully we can take to our colleagues or to our student to really foster fun, healthy relationships. So, Chris, are you ready to celebrate some holidays?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Yes,
Not
I love
Christmas, but
celebrating
I'm ready to
holidays.
celebrate some other holidays.
I love celebrating holidays. There are actually a number of different holidays that you can explore today if you're interested in learning more. There's a beautiful holiday that's Mysore Dashera, that is an Indian holiday today that I encourage you all to go check out. And I'm actually going to click on it because, yep, okay, perfect. That one. I want to make sure I got these two right. There's also a Hindu holiday that is going on today that is Sharana. I should practice this all morning. Navriti, and it's all about a divine female, so that they're going through all these different storytelling that's in the Hindu culture that is continuing today. So that would be something that's absolutely beautiful to be able to dive into today. You might have people in your classroom or that you work with that are celebrating these two beautiful holidays. So I love opportunities to learn about different cultures and learn about the backgrounds. Really, I would love to connect with somebody who can tell me all about the stories that come with these holidays and also the pronunciation, because I practiced that all morning and I bombed it. And so we're going to try again later, but that would definitely be something to look into. For those of you that are coffee drinkers or just fans of getting some fancy beverages, it is National Frappe Day. So that is, I feel like, the permission you need to go get a very sweet, wonderful treat with a big dollop of whipped cream on it. So that is, I think, always good. Chris, are you a whipped cream fan?
I'm not. I mean, I'm not anti whipped cream. It's just not something I seek out for my beverages or pumpkin pies.
I feel like you need to change your narrative today and be a whipped cream fan for National Friday.
Chris, I feel like you need to change your attitude because it sucks.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like, not to bring you down on Daily Drop-In, but you've made the bad choice. You need to change it.
Now live the consequences of my actions.
Absolutely. Something I think that is important, the last kind of celebration or awareness that I think we all need to be reflective on, be aware of as we continue throughout the day, is that it's National Depression Screening Day. There has been so many different opportunities that we've had over the last few years to fall into a negative space, a depressed space. And we try as a community to really ensure that we are doing a gut check, not only on ourselves, but in our colleagues, our friends, the people that we care about, the people within our community, to ensure that you are constantly supported. So please do not only a gut check on yourself, but also those around you, those that you care for, to ensure that people are being healthy in their mental state, in their emotional state. And obviously, if you need anything, any resources or support to not only support yourself, but those around you, the Teach Better team would love to connect you with the right resources and the right avenues to get you anything that you need. So very, very important holidays and awareness moments today. And then, Chris, this good news story, there's a lot of good news that we could be celebrating. And what I like about good news opportunities is the opportunities that we have to bring good news or fun facts to people that are within our life. You have provided us with a few different fun facts within Daily Drop-In that could be a good discussion starter. It's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, I'm just a wealth of interesting facts.
A wealth of fun facts. So really, as we get into some good news stories, you could just choose to reach out to Chris to get a fun fact to start off a conversation with a colleague. It was interesting. I'm on positive.news. It's positive.news. And as it goes through a lot of different pieces of good news that's been going on this week. There's some really interesting things about climate change that I know we've discussed this week. But one of the things I thought was really interesting that could be something you choose to dive into is that Switzerland officially is legalizing same-sex marriage. That is a big moment in history. So if you want to go through any of the work being done in that country, you're more than welcome. There are also history being made with two German politicians that are becoming the first transgender women to win the seats in their government. So they're more than anything else for the good news stories today. It's to remind you that history is being made constantly and that we have opportunities to look at the history being made, look at not only the research being done in climate change, but also the work being done within different communities and governments to bring equality to our world. There's a lot there. So if you are interested in diving into that, not only with students, but really with your colleagues, there's a lot to be celebrated this week in history. So Chris, I appreciate you allowing us to dive into some of this fun stuff that can really spur up some good dialogue between our colleagues for our good news segment.
Yeah, that's great. I know I learned a lot. That's great to hear.
There you go. There you go. Chris, I do want to make sure that our community has an opportunity to connect with you. Obviously, you've shared a wealth of knowledge. I'm going to throw in, you included the YouTube link that we're going to push out to all of our networks right now as we are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch to go find all the free resources that you shared, your YouTube channel and everything else. How can people connect with you specifically?
Ooh, well, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram at the Science Jedi, and I try to share as much as we, all our stuff that we've been putting out with Outsider, and those are the best ways. But yeah, keep tuning in. We'll be sharing lots of stuff over the next couple months.
I love it. I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you so much for waking up early, spending your time with us. We know you're a very, 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 very busy person, but I'm so glad that we finally got this in the books because I was waiting for this one. So thank you for sharing all your insight. For everybody else, we are so thrilled that you chose to start your morning with us. As you all know, Daily Drop-In happens every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern. We hope that this show every morning not only provides you some consistency in your morning routine, but also giving you food for thought and some good news to start your day off with. Please enjoy your last sips of coffee as you get started for your day. You have the most amazing Thursday ahead of you. October 7th is going to be the best day of your week, and you didn't even know it yet. So let's get into a wonderful day. Go connect with Chris and his incredible resources, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning with the one and only Brad Hughes concluding our week for Daily Drop-In. So thanks again, Chris. We'll see y'all later. Bye, guys.